So this is Bob Surridge, and as you can see, I'm here with Ginger Harper. And the Tuesday talk today, Ginger will be presenting about the, excuse me, about the Heritage House, which was a project of the Southport Women's Club. And it was also part of the annual 4th of July celebration. So in addition to talking about the Heritage House and showing you some photographs of what the Heritage House was about, Ginger's also going to talk about her, about two ladies in the Harper family, Jessie Stevens Taylor and her daughter, Margaret Taylor Harper. So that's what we have planned, and I hope you all enjoy.
Jimmy's mother and grandmother, they were very unique people,
Right.
to say the least.
So what I'm going to do is share my screen. And we can get started.
I'm glad you all are here today. This is an exciting time for me because Jimmy's mother was very special to me. And of course, I didn't know Jessie, but Jimmy told me many, many good stories about her and her events and things that she was involved with in the Southport area. So it's good to have y'all here. In this slide, of course, you can see Jimmy's mom.
I can't see that.
Oh, they
Go
can't.
ahead. No,
Okay.
you're fine.
Okay, so the Heritage House and Jimmy's mom and grandmother. The Heritage House was the big event that took place with the ladies getting all involved in the Women's Club in July, special for the 4th of July. So Heritage House was very, very special to these ladies and to the community. So in the picture here, you've got a picture of Jimmy's mom, who they have her as J.M. Harper. That's Margaret Taylor Harper. And the outgoing president, Mrs. George Ross from Wilmington. And then, of course, you've got Jimmy's grandmother. And she was a former president and a charter member of the Southport Women's Club. And then, of course, we've got Mrs. A.E. Huntley, who was the president of the Women's Club in 1960. Here we've got a picture of Jimmy's grandmother. She was a wife, a mother, daughter, and leader in the community. And she was one of the leading founding members of the Southport Women's Club, along with Kate Stewart. And she was, of course, instrumental in establishing the Southport's first library. The weather flag is, the tower that was out there that fell down that they're going to be rebuilding. That's where she would put the flags up to tell people what the weather in Southport was at that time. And Jimmy, as a young boy, would go and help her put these flags up. And he was always excited about being able to help his grandmother do that. And she received national recognition, and I think it was Harry S. Truman, if I'm not mistaken, that there's a picture in the Maritime Museum of her being presented with this award. So she was quite a mover and a shaker. The Southport Women's Club was led by Jessie Stevens Taylor, and the club was established in 1909 at the Southport Civic Club, as the Southport Civic Club. The first president was Kate Stewart. Kate and Jessie worked together on this, and I think that they decided that Kate would be the first president and Jimmy's grandmother would be the second president. And that's kind of how it went to start with. But I know that the dues for it were like a penny a month. So they did a lot of things with a penny a month with the women that were involved here. The Army Navy Club reading room was established with them, and encouraging other women to get out and participate in politics and vote. So you can see where Jimmy's mother came with all of her interest in trying to make a better community here in Southport and in North Carolina, and in the state and in the country. So she's quite a
Yeah,
responsible
Ginger, you
lady.
know, the picture there of the chapel of the cross.
Yes.
What's in front of the chapel and kind of subdued by the chapel is the first street light.
Hot dog. Okay, that's what we were talking about earlier.
Right, exactly.
That they were very much involved in getting the street lights established in Southport, plus the suit of clothes for the person that drove the carriage of the hearse. So I don't know that you knew that or not, but that was kind of interesting, I thought. And you can also see a picture of Jimmy's grandmother, and there was a monument made to her that's placed on the Garrison lawn. And it reads, Ms. Jessie Stevens Taylor, 1879 through 1961. She loved her God, her country, and fellow man. She served as a voluntary weather observer and storm warning display woman from 1900 to 1961. So she took her civic duty very, very responsibly. And here we see my mother-in-law, Margaret Taylor Harper, very dear to me. She was a wife, a mother, a daughter, and a leader in the community and in the state. She graduated from Greensboro College and then married Jimmy's father, who was the editor of the State Port Pilot. She ran her father's insurance agency, which was the Stevens Insurance Company, if I'm not mistaken, and then ran for 6 terms in the Women's Club and was the president. And she was also the first woman in North Carolina to run for a statewide office, which was lieutenant governor against Jim Hunt. Other accomplishments of her, of course, were the trustee of UNC Chapel Hill. And these things happened after she ran for lieutenant governor and lost for the second time in 1972. But she made headway with the people that were the leaders in North Carolina and was elected trustee of the UNC Chapel Hill in 1973. And she stayed on that board until 1981. And then Blue Cross Blue Shield, she became a trustee there from 1984 to 1987. And then she was board of the governors of the Research Triangle Park, which was from 1974 until her death. And then also a director with Carolina Power and Light from 1975 to 1988. Also, she was very much involved with establishments of the Methodist retirement homes. She was very instrumental in getting one established in Greensboro called Glen Haven, I believe, and then also one in Durham called Crowsdale. And she was one of the first persons that bought into that community and lived there for approximately 7 or 8 years until her death. So quite a lady.
Oh, we mentioned that Margaret Harper was a 6-time president.
Yes.
Matching her mother, who was also a 6-time president.
That's right. I think she said she had to at least match the presidencies that her mother had done.
Of course, that's the presidency of the
Southport Women's Club. Right. Exactly. And here we see a picture of, it was in The Way It Was, which is something that Jimmy used to do for the newspaper every week when he was a young man, was to do The Way It Was and then Time and Tide. But here's a picture of Fort Johnson Garrison Building, which was the county library at one point in time where they stored the books. And then you can see in the top middle where, in The Way It Was, the Brunswick County bookmobile. And if I'm not mistaken, that's Jimmy's mother on the far left. Isn't that her? I think that's her.
Yeah, in the bookmobile, yes, it is.
That's her. And then she was very instrumental in getting a county library system established for Brunswick County. She felt like reading and literacy was very important, which we all feel that way. And then, of course, you can see the new library as it is now.
Right. And obviously, did you mention the picture in the upper right was when the library was in what is now the Franklin Square Gallery?
That's correct.
Gallery.
I had forgotten about that. Thanks for reminding me of that, Bob. That's great.
Moving on.
And here we've got a picture of Jimmy's mom and dad sitting on the steps. And I think that this is at Sweetheart and Lou Hardy's house. That's where they first lived after they were married. And then you can see pictures of Jimmy's mom on the bottom left and bottom right when she was on the cover of the Woman's Club magazine. It was called The Club Woman. And I think that the one on the right is 1962, if I'm not mistaken, but she was a mover and a shaker even back then. So something very, very interesting. And then, of course, you see a picture of her in later times there. Jimmy took that picture here on the front porch, as a matter of fact, and I love that picture of her. Then, of course, on the right, there are a few things that we do, not like it is, okay. There are things that we do that are not like our own fault, but no one else's. It's, if we want to get anything done, the surest way is with our voting power. That's a powerful statement that my mother-in-law made early on.
Both for then and today.
Today, and absolutely, without a doubt. And then, of course, she was very instrumental in making things happen during the 4th of July. And as you can see, they printed up programs for the Heritage House of things that were going to be happening. They did the old-fashioned 4th of July and planned for the South. These are statements from newspapers around the state. Old-fashioned 4th of July planned for Southport. That was with the Raleigh News and Observer. And then the 4th of July festival is planned, and that's from the states for record and landmark. And then the Southport to observe Old Time 4th, and that was from the Charlotte Observer. And then the Southport, they celebrate. In Southport, they celebrate, and we really do celebrate. I've been here since 1981, and it's been the big highlight of our lives, I think, for a long time. And that was from the Greensboro News and Record. The festivities begin on July the 3rd with a 11:30 a.m. parade and winds up on the 4th of July.
Yeah. Of course, this is the one where they mentioned specifically that the big attraction for the 4th of July is the Women's Club annual Heritage.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's the Charlotte Observer.
That's right.
And then this next slide that you see and highlighted in green. So this is the 3 days of the 4th of July celebration. And each one of those days, the Heritage Club is highlighted. And I can, this 4th of July celebration was just a bit different from what it has been lately. In addition to the Heritage House, which we'll be learning about more in a little bit, there was the Southport Junior Women's Club art show. And then there was a sidewalk art show. The Winston-Salem Fire Prevention Unit was here. There was looks like it's an artist color slide tour, and the CPL and the nuclear plant model, the Mobile Museum of History, and then of course a boat show. So it was a bit of a different celebration, but still.
Those things are good things even today, though, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this next slide then, the presentation of the Heritage House, and I apologize. The Heritage House was run through the 1970s until the early 1990s. Unfortunately, all that we have at the Historical Society of photographs are 1991 and 92. But it was a long-lasting activity that took place in the USO USO building,
That's
which
right.
after World War II, the USO building became the community building. And it burned, I believe, burned to the ground in 1995, I think. So that was probably at that point the end of the heritage house.
That's correct. And it would be an interesting thing to see if the Women's Club would want to start doing something like that in the
Would be
community
interesting.
building now.
Yeah.
You know, we all have things of historic value that we treasure and would like to share to other people.
There we go.
And here we see a picture of Jimmy's mom, Margaret Harper, in the Heritage House, sitting in dress of an early age, probably the early 1900s. And she was very instrumental in bringing things over. And I think those plates over there might be those plates that are on the wall.
Oh, okay, that could be, yeah.
It's very similar to that anyway. Margaret loved history and the preserving of history. So this is a good thing. And here we've got a picture of some lovely ladies in dress of the age. Margaret is on the left. Leola Pickerel, who her husband was one of the building inspectors for the city of Southport. John Pangborn and Miss Ella Aldrich and Joe Lawrence were ladies that were in the club that I was associated with when I was first a member in 94, 95. And then this is Jimmy's mom's, Margaret Harper's dress collection. And these are some stunning dresses. I've seen them. I couldn't fit into any of them, but she wanted ladies to dress up in these dresses and enjoy that period of time in Southport's history. So
I do wish we had a better picture
oh,
of
I do too.
those dresses.
Too.
But you know, so this heritage, this 1990, early 1990s heritage house focused on a dress collection, and then you'll see the coming up will be there was a collection of clocks and things. But the heritage houses over the years, they would each pick their own theme.
That's right. I think that's
Yeah.
a great thing to do. And then here we've got that, as you were talking about,
TikTok,
the TikTok, the clocks. As a matter of fact, I've got one of the old clocks that was Jimmy's mom on my mantle in the living room right now, as a matter of fact, that chimes on the hour and the half hour. And then, of course, we've got a picture of Joe Pangborn with one of those antique rifles of long ago. And she's got some interesting garb on.
Was she an antique dealer?
I don't think so. I think that these things were donated by other women of the Women's Club, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know that she had all those things in her possession, but the women brought it together and Joan fit the part. So,
Okay.
of course, the antique tools that were used to build and do gardening and things like that. As a matter of fact, I brought one of those plows that you push with the two handles on it that Jimmy's mom wanted to have displayed on the Heritage House one 4th of July, which was interesting. And here we've got Joe Lawrence again in some of the outfits that were popular back in the early 1900s. Probably this was the 15, 16 dress.
I think so, yeah.
Some of these things, I think Jimmy's mom had even collected some of these things, and other ladies wore them and displayed them at the Heritage House.
I was just thinking, looking at these pictures, you know, you always know when you're in the old community building or the USO, because all of the walls are pine.
Absolutely.
Pine wood. Yeah.
It was beautiful. It was absolutely a beautiful building. And then we've got a very good friend of mine, Debbie Bartholow, here. And that looks like a roaring 20s to me, if I've ever seen one. Looks like she's ready to do the Charleston. And then, of course, we've got Grace Angemeyer, good friend of ours, and Jimmy's mom, Margaret Harper. Then Ella Aldrich and Leola Pickerel. And then, of course, we've got Margaret and Debbie Bartholow and Grace Angemeyer in that last picture over, dressed in period costumes or dress.
Okay. So that's what we have for the 1991 Heritage House with the dresses and the antique tools and
Clocks.
and rifles, and so
Yes.
I'm sure it was an interesting tour that you could take, and when I'm sure a bit of refreshment as well.
Oh, absolutely. They would have probably cucumber sandwiches with cream cheese on bread crusts, crustless bread squares or triangles. So, yes, absolutely.
And moving along to the Heritage House of 1992.
Yes.
And a major feature of this Heritage House was the bicentennial quilt that was created by the Southport Historical Society.
And designed by Don Johnson, who was a former president of the Historical Society, I believe.
He sure was, yes.
Don created each one of those squares, and then the women in the Women's Club and Historical Society created them, put them together. And then I think Don probably put the whole thing together. He was very creative in doing things like that.
I'll tell you what, he was a heck of a lot more creative than the current president of the Southport Historical Society.
I don't know about that.
That's for sure.
I don't know about that. But he even did painting pictures out of stamps. Did you know that?
I do.
I mean, they were beautiful. I never took a picture of them. I was in their house many, many times, and I did not take a picture. I surely wish that I had. But that quilt you can see today hanging in the
Fort Johnston Museum.
Yes. So if you want to see
in a room we call the quilt room.
I love it. But I would encourage anybody that's in Southport to go take a look at that quilt and the handiwork that the ladies did and that creative mind that Don Johnson had in doing that. So neat.
It's quite a nice presentation. It is.
And then here we've got Shirley Lewis and Grace Angemeyer standing by the quilt. Everybody wanted to be photographed in front of that quilt, that's for sure. I see that you've got a book right there.
Yeah, there is a book, and I'm not going to be able to get it on the screen completely. But it's a book called Southport Secrets, and the front of the book is a picture of the quilt. And this was another work by Don Johnston, and it tells the story of each of the quilt blocks.
And who did them.
And describes in the beginning of the book how the quilt was put together and the team of people that worked together to create the quilt.
I always wanted to do one of those squares, and Don did not ask me to do that, so I was very disappointed. Here we have a picture of Jimmy's mom, Margaret Harper, and her sister, Elizabeth Taylor Cadew. This is a picture of Elizabeth Stevens, who is the grandmother of Margaret.
The portrait above the couch.
Right, behind the couch. Now that's an interesting couch they've got there, isn't it?
It is. It is.
So much history. This is a table set. Do they have refreshments on that table, or can you tell?
It doesn't look like they have, but maybe someone ate them all. It doesn't
Must
look
have.
like.
But we've got Grace Angemeyer and Arlene Federer, another very active women's club member here, displaying a beautiful table with the blue pottery or plates and cups and things.
Well, this next item I think is interesting, an autographed quilt.
I think this is unique.
Yeah, you folks out there, you can't see it well enough to pick out that there are actually autographs on each of the quilt blocks. For example, you said C. Edward Taylor was one of those, and he was in the turn of the 20th century. C. Edward Taylor and his wife, Jessie Stevens Taylor, where uh, a leadership couple, if you will, in the town of Southport. He was an attorney, and he was elected to the state legislature and so on. So that his autograph is on one of the blocks of that quilt, and then others in the community.
Now this quilt, if I'm not mistaken, is a Bethel Baptist Church in the Winnebago area, not Bethel Church here. And that's where Charles Edward Taylor, who became the husband of Jessie Stevens Taylor, went to church. And I remember taking this, they had some kind of a event at that church, and Jimmy's mom had this quilt boxed up, and we took it back to the church people there to stay in their possession. But it was loaned to the Women's Club, to the Historical Society and to the Heritage House for display. I guess because C. Ed Taylor's name is on there and other prominent people in the Southport area.
Maybe that was going to be their next project.
That's not a bad idea. I think that's a good idea. Let's implement some of these things that we're thinking about. And here we've got Grace Engelmeyer and Arlene Federer with a refreshment table. I can certainly see that now, that they do have some kind of refreshments, punch and probably sandwiches and crackers or cookies or something.
And here's well, again, I wish it was a much better picture.
Well, I think Jimmy's mom had someone take these pictures, so they didn't have the cameras and everything that we have today. So, but this is a picture of Jimmy's mom, Margaret Harper, with her grandmother Stevens sewing machine. So I think that's an interesting.
Maybe that's a good time to you want to tell the story of E.B. Stevens and Elizabeth Stevens and how they came to Southport?
It's kind of interesting. Jimmy's mom had given me a little pamphlet at one point in time that was created by her cousin, whose father was, his name was Sylvanus Boardman Stevens and Enoch Bunker Stevens. And Enoch and his family lived in the Chicago area. And he was a very civic-minded individual who was raised to a Mason status. And I don't know exactly what that means. Anyone that's a Mason knows that. But he also was a member of the Chicago Board of Trade in 1854. And he was married to Elizabeth Larmony. Enoch was born in 1830. And he died in Southport in 1922. Elizabeth was born in 1834 in Ireland, as a matter of fact, and she died in let's see, I don't have her death here. Died in 1908. So she died at the age of 74, and Enoch Bunker, who was living in Southport at the time, died at 92. And Jessie Margaret Stevens was Margaret's mother. But he wanted a new life for his family, so he took their possessions and the family by rail from Chicago to Wilmington. And then in Wilmington, they got on a barge with all of their possessions and came up the Cape Fear River to Southport, North Carolina. One of the interesting things that I thought about him was that he moved to Southport, North Carolina in 1888 after becoming interested in a railroad project which proposed to develop the harbor at the mouth of the Cape Fear River, which is us, into one of the great coaling ports of the South Atlantic coast. And you've got a theory on that too, Bob. The State Port Pilot, as a matter of fact, is called State Port because they thought this was going to be the state port for North Carolina. And
well, it also works that it could be Wilmington as the state port, and the pilots for the state port were here in Southport.
that's correct.
So it's state port.
State port pilot. So we don't know the answer to that, but I think it's very interesting to speculate that that could be what's going on here. So,
Well, he never got his railroad.
no, there was a railroad here.
Well, yes, a little too late and a little too little.
Right.
It was here. And what happened is one of the things that happened, the basis for that railroad, E.B. Stevens's railroad,
Right.
he wanted to bring grain from the Midwest.
Right.
Actually, when he was in the Board of Trade, his specialty was grain futures.
Right.
So he wanted to bring grain from the Midwest, come down through Tennessee and pick up coal in Tennessee, and then come here to Southport. And there was a coaling dock.
Oh, yes.
Before there was a railroad even.
Right.
There was a coaling dock. But that's how they were going to make their money, essentially, was coal.
Isn't that something?
What happened, though, the ships changed from that time period. The steamers changed from coal to oil.
That's right.
So that never really came through. But what he did was create an amazing legacy, which is his family.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. Very civic-minded individuals, every one of them, even Jimmy's mother's, Jimmy's aunt and uncle, for instance. Both Elizabeth and Anna were teachers, and Uncle Edward was a professor at Auburn University. So, very civic-minded people.
Well, speaking of Harper, there's another one.
There's Ed taking a picture of Stuart Cleary and Pat Pittinger with Alice Arrington's doll collection, which somebody's got that collection right now, and I'd love to see that now. That would be something else to see. Ed was a photographer, and of course, helping his father as assistant editor, I suppose, of the Southport Pilot. And Ed did a marvelous job for many, many years with the paper.
Kind of winding us down. What you're seeing is a picture on the left of the Ginger mentioned that the quilt is a display in the Fort Johnson Museum, and that's the display that you're seeing there. And then on the right, I just tried to get another picture to show the different blocks that were in the quilt. Some of them, and this was done in 1992, but one of them, for example, is the
top right one is the frying pan.
Yeah, the frying, but one of them is the old city garage.
I think that's this one right there, if I'm not mistaken. That was torn down after I moved here, so I'm not exactly quite sure when. And then you've got that's Price's lighthouse.
Price's Creek Lighthouse, and there's the one,
the Garrison,
the Garrison, the pilot
hospital.
boat, the Amuse You theater.
Bald Head.
Sure.
So the quilt has got scenes of things that are Southport things. So very, very interesting.
So that's our presentation for today, and let me stop sharing the screen and ask if there's any questions.
Maybe we can answer them. We're not sure, but we'll try. Roseanne, do you have anything to say? You're muted. You need to unmute. Can you unmute her?
Which one is it?
There you go. Hear me now?
Hi there. How are you?
Very good. Very interesting presentation. Thank you so much. My daughter's here with me today in New Jersey.
Good to see you. How are you?
It's good for us to be together. I did have a question, Ginger.
Yes.
That is a different view than we're
Doll
used to.
collection. When was that taken?
What was taken?
The picture of the doll collection, when was that taken?
We think in 92, don't we? We think
1992.
1992, because Jimmy's mother had albums, and these albums, after her passing, were stored here in the house. And I had some of the grandchildren to donate any of the things that went to the Southport Women's Club, to the Southport Women's Club, to the Historical Society, to the Methodist Church, you know, anything that was pertinent. I wanted the grandchildren to give them to where they needed to be.
Wow,
So
that's great. It was nice to see Pat Pittenger then, because she's now on the homepage of the Friends of the Library website. So I recognized her immediately in that picture. It was lovely to see.
that's so good. That's so good. Pat, how are you doing today?
You're muted.
You're
Pat.
muted.
Muted.
Pat is
I'm
seldom
doing fine.
muted.
Yeah, I'm hooking my ears up so I can hear you better. Good presentation. Thank you.
Do you have anything to add to what we talked about?
No, because this was out of my purview. I didn't get here in time to be a part of the holiday house or the old community building. It had burned down by the time I arrived in '96. Yeah.
Right.
So I'm always interested in hearing about those of you who were there and enjoyed that place.
It was a big thing for Jimmy's mom. I mean, it was like the top thing that you could do for the 4th
Oh,
of
yeah,
July.
yeah.
And it changed. The 4th of July changed significantly since I came in '81 until what it is today.
Mhm.
So always
What it might be today.
what it might be today. Exactly. Ellen, do you have anything to add? You're muted.
Yeah, I missed the first 17 minutes of the presentation trying to get in. I finally texted Liz and suddenly I was in. So I'm sorry I missed most of it. Is this recorded?
Yes, it's recording, and I'll probably by tomorrow have it up on Facebook and YouTube.
Then I'll catch up with what I missed.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I probably missed letting you in, so it's so I'm double sure I get that recording up and running for you.
Joan, are you there with us? Joan, if you're there, you're muted.
Bob, I had the same problem getting in. I sat for a good 15 minutes with the message saying that the host would let me in, and I did connect just right at 1 o'clock. So I don't know if that's some kind of something going on or whatever. But I hung in there till you appeared.
All right, thank you.
I wanted to do.
I'm here.
Joan?
I'm
Hi,
here.
Joan.
Hi.
Yes.
Well, it's good. I had trouble getting in too. I thought I was a little late, but I caught most of it. I
Good.
enjoyed it. I'm glad that you're carrying on that history.
I think that Bob's very historic minded, and I love the history of the family and Southport,
Yeah.
Brunswick County. So
Because we love Margaret. of course.
yes, I miss her so much.
Yeah.
Well, let me just say, if you see, we're here in the Harper house, sitting at the dining room table, and I want to thank you for inviting us in.
Well, I thought it was
We appreciate it.
good to do.
And I think I want to tell folks that about the Christmas, that society is working to do the Christmas tour this year.
Oh.
And yesterday, Ginger became the first one to volunteer her house for the Christmas tour. And you're gonna love it, folks. It's great. And thank you. Thank you very much.
I
Thank
feel
you very
very,
much.
very warm, very loved, very comfortable in this home that Jimmy's mother and father bought in 1958 for $25,000.
Wow.
Yeah, I love it.
I'll
It's
give you
just,
26.
I love it. But anyway, you're welcome. Anybody's welcome to come and visit with me here. So Pat, come visit. Jim,
I
come.
will.
Be there for the house tour.
Pat, Jim, Conklin, are y'all there? Anyway.
I want to say this about the house. Of course, you know, just walking on the sidewalks and watching the transformation, Ginger, that you have made to it recently is just wonderful. But several years ago, I would do walking tours for the Historical Society. And sometimes it would rain. I had a group over from the Cape Fear Museum one time, and it started showering a little bit. And I said, come on, I know a porch we can get on. And so it was always so wonderful to know that the house was always there if I needed to jump on a porch, and I did. And then, of course, got to talk a little bit about the Harpers and the newspaper and all. So it is a treasure, your house is, for our city. And I'm so glad that you have done the renovation, and so looking forward to seeing it, and love what you've done to the lot next door. Beautiful. So
It's a
thank
tribute
you.
to Jimmy's mom and dad.
Yes.
Absolutely a tribute to them. I love them both so much, but I was
Right.
very, very close to Jimmy's mom.
The Historical Society would really like to buy it from you for a house that we can, that we can have on tour. So anytime you're ready to sell.
Well, I'll tell you that you are welcome to come anytime. I don't have it
Thank you.
stick and span every time, but anytime you want to come, give me an hour's notice and you can certainly come and see it.
Thank you, Ginger. Thank you.
Well, it's a historic house. It could be a historic price.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
Anybody give 26.
I do apologize that I did obviously messed up on bringing people in. I guess the good news was two pieces of good news. The good news is we recorded it. We'll have that up within by tomorrow. And probably the best news is Liz will be back next time.
Anytime you want to do this again, Bob, I'm all up for it. Maybe we'll polish it up a little bit.
Okay.
This was fun. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, this one. Oh, you got it down, yeah, don't you?
Bye-bye. There were some blooms, but I think it went okay.
It went fine. It went fine.